Thank you. Well, greetings, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for coming out. So as you see, this is actually our company. A lot of people, I've gotten emails, probably more all week than I've gotten in the last 20 years that this business has been in effect. But A.T.B stands for Anthony and Trina Burks. But it actually started as a design company that Anthony and I had started, and we were doing graphic design work for a number of years. And in that process, I started promoting Anthony's work because I felt that he was getting underexposed. So we're going back to like the early 90s. And I discovered the internet. I also discovered that what I was doing is now presently called spam. But from doing that, a lot of people got to see Anthony's work that probably would have never gotten to see it. So in the process, Anthony kind of felt like what I'm doing for him, I could do for a number of other artists. But we didn't have a true connection with the art community at the time. Those of you who know the history of, there was really a disconnect in our community. So we had to find a way to find them. So I worked my 9-to-5s, and what I did is I searched the internet for places where I could find other artists. And I literally started from the Cultural Council, looking at their list of artists, and just started reaching out to them, trying to find out, how are you getting your work out there? I would research where they were showing at and why they chose the venue. Is it a reliable venue? And just from there, they reached out to me, I reached out to them. And then got, like Ellie said, involved with the Artists of Palm Beach County. And for me, that was the turning point. Actually, from that, a lot of this started to develop, including the collaboration concept. One of the visions that we had, and I thank Terry for being here, because Terry was a big part of why I was even involved with the Artists in Palm Beach County in the first place. But one of the big things that they asked for was a place for artists to show their work. And at the time when we joined on that organization, we had just put in to buy our home. So we were like, why not just host events at our home? So the very first show of collaborations actually started in our house. We got probably about 7 artists. We took down all our personal artwork, hung their stuff on the wall, had sculptors outside and inside. And since we live in the Northwood community at the time, they were trying to get people to buy properties over there. So it just made sense to bring people who want to buy homes and want to buy art to decorate their homes. So after a while, people started coming to Anthony. Anthony was working at a sign company at the time. And they just kept coming to us. So we just kept providing services. Artists that needed just even a way to find clientele, how to work with their clientele, how to connect with their clientele. And through collaboration, we were able to teach them what they need to know. So again, we have a signage and printing company, which now we do fine art printing, and Anthony still designs signs to this day. His collections, which some of it's displayed here, you can see later. Our design company, which we work with other artists as well, that, you know, sometimes he doesn't want to necessarily do a logo, so we know people who do website design, logo design, some signage as well. And then my company, which is Dizzy Image. Dizzy was a name that a friend of mine literally came up with probably about 30 or 40 years ago, and I didn't like the spelling of it. It just meant crazy. So I turned it around and changed the spelling. And Anthony designed that logo, which those of you who have seen, that's also, it started out as a tattoo image, and I decided to make that my brand. The concept of our thought process is to basically, we include all artists. I don't care what their discipline is. I don't care, you know, what they do. It could be music, dance, theater. We've done stuff for just about everybody in every discipline. The only thing I don't tolerate, and he can answer that, I don't tolerate ego, because we're all after the same thing. Not necessarily, we don't necessarily want to be famous. We want to be able to produce our work and make money from our work. So the ego goes out the window with me. If you can't deal with that, then you don't want to deal with me. Okay, so we had mentioned about the show that we did here. That was probably, first of all, it was, from what we heard, the largest attended show here at the Armory ever. They went over 500 in attendance for their opening night. And the one thing that I was excited about, every day someone came in here specifically to see that exhibition. And again, that was unheard of because, you know, those of you who've ever been to an opening, you go to the opening, and unless you really connected with the show, you may never go back again. And we did not want that. We wanted people to come and see what was going on. We wanted people to see that there is a network of artists that is kind of understated, not really noticed, not paid attention to. I mean, we all as artists are struggling, but we had a vision for this and we worked hard for it. As far as the title, we, believe it or not, did not choose that title, African Diaspora. I mean, it makes sense because it was an all-black ensemble, but I just felt that that term was a little commercialized, but it worked. It got people's attention. The drum was, if you read the bottom, it says that unifies people through the artistic spirit. Because we work with artists of all disciplines, we wanted that all-inclusive in our exhibitions. And those of you who have attended all the collaborations, there was always something involved, just not visual art. There was always music, dance, spoken word, something. So that particular one, we had something each weekend to show that artistic spirit. But again, we're going to use it, but that wasn't initially our choice. Black Art in America was one of our sponsors who did all of our national outreach. They're based out of Atlanta, but they do have a location in Miami. And they were the pinnacle of a lot of what we did in this event. They were involved in an event we did down in Miami called Art Africa. And from there, I just reached out to them, which brings me to, you'll see a few slides going forward. All of our sponsors, we reached out to. We told them what the need was. We weren't shady about it. We said, we need liquor, and we need money. And we need you to be able to provide it if you can. So Bombay Sapphire, I approached them and I said, I see you're involved in art and I see it's heavy in Miami, and it just so happens they wanted to be involved here in Palm Beach County. So one back scratched the other, and from that, a collaboration was born between a business and an artist. And that's the other thing we teach. We always try to get artists to understand, reach out to businesses, whether it's national, whether it's local. Start small, because we always start small. We reached out. The next slide is a local, actually he's an art collector, which is the first thing. Brian Boyson, he's a lawyer, but he's an avid collector. And the other thing I encourage, know your collectors. You know, we do business with galleries, and they don't necessarily want you to know who's buying the work because they want to continue making the money, and you do what you do, and I'll give you a little piece of what you do, and I'm going to connect with them. I don't agree with that. Collaboration, one of the other things that we encourage, we want you to meet the client that's buying your work. We want you to develop a relationship with that client, and we want you to be able to make them a collector, not a buyer. You want them to buy your work more than once. You want them to see, oh, it's the season. You have new work? Where's your next show? We want that kind of dialogue. That's something that prior to me taking on this, it wasn't part of the process. Anthony could not leave business cards in a gallery for a client to call him. I don't have a problem with that.
He's one of my collectors. He owns 3 of my pieces.
And he owns a few people's work that was in that show.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's not just, oh, you know, he's a friend. He started out as a client of another artist friend of ours. She brought him to one of our house shows. He came to our house. He was like, okay, I'll be there. Looked at the work. He didn't hesitate.
Didn't blink.
So developing that kind of relationship is important, I feel. Now, some of the next set of slides are basically the opening of the show. Some of the things, some people saw the show, and I'm glad, and thank you for coming out. It was family. And not just the people that were in the show, but the people that attended, the people that put the word out for us. Collaboration is really about family. It's not just about a bunch of artists complaining about stuff. It's about a group of us. And you know we all do it, so don't act like you don't. We all get together and we do what we need to do to get it done.
And we want the artists that we have in our shows everybody is part of us. Or we met this gentleman in Art Basel 2 years ago, and I'm glad I did. I ran into these guys and I was like blown away, because I have never really been to any shows here local that represented my kind, my people, you know. And just to be in a building that it was 30 some artists in there, all black. One thing we try to do all our shows, we try to mix up. We don't believe in the whole color thing, because again, at the end of the day, I'm an artist, and I want to be recognized as an artist. And if you see some of my work, I'm doing everything. I'm doing birds right now. I've been doing 6 months of birds. So I'm not sometimes we get tied in that, because we're black, we have to do images of black people, or I struggle, or I fight. I don't say I don't, because my gift came from God. So I just talked to her in the car. I'm like, this is my second life. My first life is still working in me right now. Some days I wake up and I come up with ideas. I'm like, where did that come from? Why am I doing this stuff? So these artists that you are going to see through the slides here, they are family now. Any artist that we run into become my family. And it don't matter what color you are, where you come from. Only thing again, like she said, the ego
goes out the door. I mean, I can call out people around the room who are what I call collaboration artists. Once you've done a show with us, you are a collaboration artist, which means I promote your stuff, I share your Facebook pages,
yes.
I refer you to other people, like if someone needs anything, renderings, I know which artist to go to. And in the beginning, it was hard because I had maybe about 12 artists. We've worked with over 90 artists now. I looked through the list and it's about 90 artists with different types of work. So I can literally go down my list. I was gonna say Rolodex, I'm dating myself, there is no Rolodex. But my inbox information, and I can pull an artist out of a hat and say, are you open to taking on this gig? Now this image is one of the images that's in our catalog that we did for the show. The other thing is, again, we do layout and design work. We did this entire thing. The Armory didn't do any of this. The only thing they did, they proofread it. But all the sponsors we have in here, the way it's laid out, that was A.T.B. This is A.T.B's
And
work.
our sponsors paid for the book.
Yep.
One thing I've learned from my wife is that it don't hurt to ask, because they only give you a yes or no. So we tell all artists that you just got to reach out. You don't never know who's looking at you, who knows you.
Who's gonna respect you and
Yes.
be willing to help you. I was just saying, I was talking to Craig because we're getting ready to do Art Synergy. I don't know if all of you know that. It's a partnership with ArtPalmBeach here in Palm Beach County, similar to Art Basel. So it's an incubator that's spread out, I guess you say it has legs and then it has tentacles, and the whole theme is you're in the loop. And right now we're in the getting the money stage. I'm gonna be real, getting the money stage, getting the financing together. And I'm finding a way to save money here to be able to pay entertainment. I'm getting tired of people asking artists of any discipline to donate their time, their talents. I'm tired of seeing bands going, I was at an event and the band was there and they were singing their heart out, but they didn't get paid to be there. It's like, oh, it's for exposure. I'm gonna tell you something. I could say this frank. Any artist that's been with us, they've had enough exposure. They wanna get paid now.
Yeah.
So like the areas that I see where they're spending all this extra money that's really not needed, I say take that money and put it back to the artist. And that's logical for me, you know what I mean? I have kids, one's in college, one's getting ready to go to college. She's got a child that eventually she'll be going to college. I know there's some of you who have kids, you already know. Last thing I need to be doing is giving up blood, sweat, and tears and money out of my pocket to produce something beautiful for you to turn around and say, oh, well, I'll give you half of what you're asking for, but you're gonna get the exposure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna expose myself. I'm good. Thank you. Next. And that's basically one of the pieces that I do. And that's also in the book.
Yes. And this book, which we didn't get paid for because I did all the design work, 3 weeks of work. Mm-hmm. This whole show took us about 9 months to create. And that's another thing that people got to understand. You just can't put together a show in a week, a month, or 3 months and think it's going to be excellent.
Unless you have a good team of people.
Yes, you got to have a great team. And again,
We were the team.
we were the team.
We were it.
Yes. It took me 3 weeks and sweat and tears with the artists, trying to get them to get me there. We were asking for the artist statement. We got mostly bios. So it's like, okay.
And we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We're going to talk about
But
that,
again,
yeah.
there's 23
Three.
artists in this. There's 25 in the book. We had 2 artists that pulled out the last minute.
Which is something else.
That's
a no-no. If you commit, and I got to tell you the other thing that was a benefit to these artists for this show, because it was the first run, we didn't charge the artists to be in the show. So the artists didn't pay a fee. And that's good for them, but at the sense, what we've discovered, and it's growing pains for us too, realizing that sometimes we commit when we pay. I think we take it way more seriously. I think in the very beginning, in the planning of this process, I don't think anyone really knew what the process was and didn't realize what we were serious about until they saw it. It was almost like they had to see it to discover that, oh, it's like that.
But they got this for free, and they got all this other publicity
Right.
for free.
Yes.
And
Right, they got a lot of,
that.
exactly, and you know, again, it was a learning experience because of the fact that it was, for me, 9 months, you know, for some people, I was like, that's a lifetime. That was really not a lot of time. We got the approval last Art Basel, while we were in Art Basel, that they would even move the show. It's supposed to be 2014. They moved it to 2013 and then moved it again from November to September, which literally gave us, from the minute we drove back up from Miami, we had to start the planning. So part of the planning was getting the artist on board and then just the logistical stuff. And it is a lot of work. Those of you who have ever curated a show or even helped manage a show, you know it is a lot of work. So, it was worth it in the end because a lot of great things came from it. There was a lot of press. And I think I know the Armory benefited because for a long time, people didn't even know the Armory had a gallery space. They knew, well, I know they teach art. I don't really need to learn anything about art, so I don't need to go. But there's so many other things like this. Until I did that e-blast, nobody even knew that they did these. You know what I mean? They didn't know that there was a salon here to learn about different artists in the community. So it's about getting that dialogue going and communicating to the public.
Guess it's my turn now.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, my name is Anthony Burks. I'm a native of Florida. I've been here 45 years of my life. I started off in this world, watching my mom coloring books. And watching her use the crayons. She never calls herself an artist, but what she can do with a crayon is amazing. Mixing colors, So I got myself started by watching my mom color in her coloring books. And then I got into school, I entered these art contests all the time, and I was starting to win them. So I felt that, I guess I have a talent here. And I really got serious with my art, I say the 11th grade. That was 85. That I learned how to use color pencils. And from there, I'm here. And now I'm switching to doing a little painting now, which I hate because the cleanup and all this stuff is just a pain in my butt. But I'm starting to love it a little bit more, use my hands more into them and all that kind of stuff. I brought a few of my pieces here.
Those pieces are all color pencil.
Everything there is color pencil except for this one here, which is a print. The original is now sold. I did a collection of Mother Nature's, and I did 12 altogether. And my goal was to show my expression of what I think a black woman is to me. So I took the eyes out. Don't ask me why at the beginning I couldn't tell you. It's just something that I felt that was needed to be done, and because I used the butterflies as the eyes of nature, because butterflies are everywhere. So Mother Nature don't need her eyes because she has the butterfly to do it for her. So I did this series. I've been working on this series now going on 15 years. And I just finished the last one, but since I've been doing a lot of collaboration, I actually started the piece and then I passed it off. And I told another artist to finish the last piece of the series. Hopefully we'll see that very soon. This is basically another series I'm working on called Natural Beauty. And all these ladies here are people in my life some kind of way. They're either my Facebook friends, personal friends, but they all have something to do with me in some form or fashion. And I threw the butterfly in there again because, again, I just look at the butterfly as being beauty. And I look at the women in my life as beauty. So that series came about just because of me feeling, you know, I look at a woman, the woman to me is beautiful, inside and out to me. And I just like to express it sometimes, so I do it in my work.
Talk about heralds too.
Heralds. I curate the coffee house at Heralds. I have different artists there every month. So that's another thing that's on my plate here. Every month I switch out and put new artists in. And if any of you artists want to be in this, let me know. I have February, March, April open right now. Okay. It was a hint to someone here. But I've been doing this for now a year, and it's something new for me because normally Trina and I work together. This is my little project here. I designed the flyer. Each artist gets a flyer that I create, and I go in, I actually hang the artwork. They don't have to do anything as usual, you know, and I actually, you know, try to create a little atmosphere for them. So we'll bring some wine, some cheese and stuff like that for them to have a good showing for their night that they choose.
And what's cool now, because Northwood is doing their art walks, and they've come into the space to show the tour, the art that's in there, and Anthony will do a little presentation. This month is actually our month, so that's one of the exhibiting spaces.
Actually, the art walk is going to happen on the 14th of December, and it's from 6 to 8. This series here, I've been working with a group that basically help out endangered animals. And most of these animals are from Brazil, from Africa, and they basically bring them down here to rehab them, basically to help them get back to they can take them back. So they literally, bungalows, they take these large animals and they literally bring them back to life, and then they ship them all back home once they get them to a point that they can handle their own. I do this show every February.
Out in Loxahatchee, Rare Species Conservatory is the benefactor for the event.
Sorry, what's the media on that? Before?
Go back. I do a little bit of everything. I work with color pencil, pastel, watercolor, and acrylic. And then I actually came about, started having problems with my hands. Because when I do my color pencil, I'm like really, really hard with it, and it started to affect my hands. But this is my drug. I have to do art. So I had to find a way to still do what I do. So I started just playing around, you know, just start throwing watercolor on this, just using the pastels, and find out, you know, why I can do this here. I don't have to just do color pencil. So it allowed me now to reach out where I normally was not comfortable with. And now it's not a fear anymore. I can go at it with no problems at all. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
The interesting part is that a lot of people didn't realize back when he was doing all color pencil, they thought it was airbrush, the background. That's how detailed he was doing it.
I always tell the story when I was in high school. I entered our art contest, and the contest was over, and I'm like, wow, I didn't win anything. Like, I should have won something, you know. And I went to one of the judges, and I asked her, I said, you know, I'm not saying that I'm better than any artist out here, but why did I not win? She said, well, you had your pieces in the wrong category. I said, I did? He said, well, you had it in pencil, and that's paint, so you got disqualified. And I'm like, I said, no, that's...
And those are judges.
Right, that's scary, right?
So I said, no, this is actually all pencils, all color pencil, and I normally do my pieces 22 by 30. So I literally fill the whole page up, and it takes me between 20 to 30 hours to do a piece. Used to. Now I don't cut it down about 12 because I mix it up now, so it's not as hard anymore.
But these are not.
No, it was done. It was after the contest, so I was like devastated. Like, you know, I literally went to go take my artwork off the wall. My mom like, Anthony,
be professional.
Be professional, and I just left it in. Yeah, she believed me after I told her, but again, they already gave out the awards. When I felt even worse, you know, because I worked very hard.
Felt amazing.
How detailed you.
Well, I was at the time 16, and I just wanted to go in the corner. All right, now this is my series I've been working on now again for about 6 months. I tell people I'm playing God for a day. And why I say that is that I'm changing all the colors, you know, because most of the time the birds' colors are representing where they live, what they eat, and how to protect themselves. They can hide from danger. Me, I'm pulling out their inner beauty. You know, I'm showing them if they wanted, like we wear clothes, you know, maybe they want to wear something different today. So, and these are now, I'm back into my color pencil.
And these are all color
These
pencils.
pieces that you see, these are all color pencils. So I'm back into my old stage now. And I got into doing pieces on wood because I ran out of paper. And I had a friend that her husband works at basically he just cut wood up all day long. So he told me to come in and pick out some pieces. And I argued and fussed for a while. I'm like, I can't put color pencil on wood. It's not gonna hold. And one day I decided, let me just try one.
Now
And
he's addicted to that.
fell in love with it. Actually, this was the.
How do
You see that one there?
what do you have it coated with?
What is it? Clear.
Just clear,
Like spray?
just
Yeah.
spray.
Really?
This is actually was my first bird right here. And I did this here watching the football game. The
Can you
Denver
tell?
Broncos was playing and winning. So that's how I chose my first colors on my birds. The orange and the blue. So that's their football colors. So that was my first color bird pretty much on wood. So, you know, but again, I mastered this. It took me to get to this point with color pencil. It took me, I would say, about 12 years. 12 long years and many pencils. You know, so again, I pour my heart in my work, and I love for my audience to appreciate it. And one thing I always do, you know, we all need money, but I don't want my pieces going to anyone's home if they can't love it and appreciate it. So you can be the most famous, richest person in the world. If you do not respect my work, I don't want you owning it. I don't want you to own Anthony Burks. I want you to own my work.
We've done that. We had a client that would always downplay our prices, so he would get our stuff for dirt cheap. And Anthony, he wanted this one piece. Those of you who have seen the Florida Panther, he did the big one. He wanted that one, but he wanted it for like pennies, I'll say. So Anthony's like, you know, I could do a smaller version. So he produced a smaller version. He's like, no, I really wanted that one. So if that one doesn't sell, let me know. So, but we got even. He didn't get it because another person saw it online, and he was like, look, right now, this year, we're not in the market to buy, and this was like 2 years ago. But I'm gonna talk to my wife. If it's still available, I would like to buy it. So literally, for what he produced the work for this guy to buy it for, we tripled our payment. The guy paid it in installments, so he paid it off, and we shipped it to him.
Yeah.
Last payment was in August, and we shipped him the painting.
Yes.
So the big one's still available, but that one that was, I called him the orphan, because he was abandoned. We thought he was gonna have a home, and he didn't get a home, but now he has a home.
But again, one thing we try to tell artists, and it's something I had to learn too, stand by your pricing.
Yeah.
Don't lower your price just to sell it, because you're lowering yourself.
Yeah.
You know? And it took me
Exactly.
a few years to get that, because again, when I lost my job, it's now going on 3 years, and I stood by my guns. I had people that came in. That's one of the people she was talking about. He knew I needed money, so he knew he had some pieces that he could have got from me, and I refused it. I'm like, I need to feed my family and all, but I built this. My wife and I built this, and you got to stand by your principles on what you feel about your work. Don't let no one tell you that you have to sell it for what they're asking for. You can always make a deal with them. But, I always look at people when they come to me about buying my work. I look at that person, and it's sometimes getting in the way of our business, but I look at that person. If I know that person cannot afford my piece for $3,000, but their heart is there and they can't stop looking at it, and I know they're not doing this to take advantage of me, I go to my business partner and I ask her, all right, this person needs this piece.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure this person get this piece. Yeah. And that way, I feel good at the end of the day. And again, the business end didn't take over, but again, I still have pieces in my collection that is $20,000 right now, and it's going up every year. And that's the ones I used to do all color pencil. I don't do the big pieces anymore in all color pencil. So all my pieces that I had back in the day, that's all color pencil. If you want those, you have to come out your pocket to get them. And I have a saying, and I say, you either can afford me now or can't afford me later, because I'm going up.
And I don't know if you notice, I do post other artists' work. There's a lot of artists that I know that they do the same thing, they give from their heart. But I know how hard they work in this community and what they do. And I'll quote Anthony and I'll post the artist's work and I'll say that quote. Because I want people to understand that these artists are putting, again, their blood, sweat, and tears into this stuff.
And this is where on Facebook, I had to learn as well, because normally I just post my pieces on Facebook, but I don't have any information about who I am, if I'm selling the piece. So I created a little thing here that I have my information on here. So if you're doing Facebook, try to, instead of just dropping your images on Facebook for everyone to share in the world, let them share everything. Let them share who you are, how they can get in contact with you, all that kind of stuff. You know, so that's very important to do. So I created this, I have about 10 of these now. So instead of me just dropping one image, I'm giving you a little taste of everything that you can probably take and put in your home in different areas. So that's something that you want to do as well if you're doing the Facebook and all these different sites now. Let them know who you are. You gotta play business too. It's cool to see your nice pieces, but at the end of the day, you need to show them that I'm still in business and I'm looking to sell some of these pieces, not just to show you for you to like all day long. You know?
Right.
This piece here, I put this piece in here for a reason. This is one of my learn a lesson piece. This piece sold, and I'm gonna tell you how much it sold for. I sold this piece for $1,000.
How big is it?
30 by 40. I'll say about 20 hours worth of work. This person that bought this piece, he worked on my good side and he got me. But like she said, he would never get me again. Because I found out when I went to see the piece, because this guy, he's a collector, but he has this thing that comes into my home sometimes. He say, you know, I'm Anthony, I can't afford your prices, so you know I'm here to steal from you. And for a while I took it as a joke, ha 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 ha. But he literally was stealing from me. And he won't steal anymore because when I saw this piece finished frame, he normally invite me to his home so I can sign the glass, or all his artists. He has a room for all his artists. So he has a lot of art. Beautiful soul. I love him because he does, you know, try to support the artists, but you know, at the end of the day, he's still robbing me.
And he pays a lot of money for the framing.
Yeah, he paid
framing.
This is why I'm coming to this here. He paid $1,700 for the frame. So my beautiful piece that he got for $1,000, he went to a framer and got it for $1,700, and then blanked at the guy when he told him how much it was going to cost him. So again, us artists, we have to sometimes respect ourselves and know that we got this talent and we need to make sure that we don't get ripped off. Again, I give away a lot of work from my heart. I know some people that can't afford the prices I have on my pieces right now, but I do have my giveaways. These are my $10 trees. So you are getting the original from Anthony Burks. So you can't walk away from my table or my shows without saying you can own me. All right? And again, we need to always tell artists to have a little, not a gimmick, have something that you know, again, some of your customers cannot afford to spend. That piece is $2,200. You know, that piece is $1,900. That piece just sold. The one in the middle, that piece sold for $2,200. They're paying in installments, so new way.
Yeah.
Don't turn no person down if they don't have the money. $500 a month is fine with me. You know, so you always try to find a way that you can get to your client and basically don't let them walk away without anything. So if they can't afford original and they don't want prints, because a lot of people find that they don't like prints, they want the original. So I tell them, I can give you $10.
We got,
You know?
A starter.
Yes.
right, a starter to eventually collect,
Yes.
to have a collection.
Oh, this piece here, that was part of a series I did called Mudcloth. And the history of blacks in slavery times and in Africa, they had their way of talking to each other without you even knowing it. It was through the drums. It was through the symbols that they put on the mudcloth was telling you where to go, like in the Underground Railroad. Underground Railroad was basically, they did quilts. And these quilts had diagrams of how to get to the Nate's safe house. So when I did this series, I said, wow, how can I do the same thing? How can I speak through my art? By using the mudcloth. So I started putting symbols in there. I used a symbol of like the drum just to show you that, you know, we can't communicate this way. But then all the symbols that was inside it represented something. Like I did the drum here. The dots represent the people that surround the drum. That's the community. This here representing the villages. So everyone in the villages meets up to listen, to learn through the drum. So that basically came from that piece. And it's simply called Drum, Mudcloth series. And I think I did about 10 pieces for that series. This piece started my Rooted Ground series that I do now. And I used the tree to represent you as a person. Without your soul, your spirit, who are you as a person? Same thing with the trees. The roots don't go deep enough to get the nutrients to stay alive because no one's out there watering or getting it fertilized. It has to find a way to survive, so it's living as well. So I felt if that tree had a mind of its own, what would it be thinking? What would it want to do? Or what it would want to be? At first I was afraid that people are going to take it as if I'm showing death or stuff like that. But I found a lot of people they really understood what I was trying to come across with what I was creating. So I do animals, people, statues. I do a lot of different things to show the strength of the trees, because again, without the trees, we won't be here. But they're really a big part of our lives. This is actually one of my Mother Nature series pieces. This piece here was number 8. And that piece has been sold as well. And again, I included my trees. And I did the woman nude and put the hummingbird to represent that, hummingbirds get its pollen and stuff from life. So again, this is Mother Nature. So I included that into the piece.
And that was a little bit risque when he first did it. A lot of people were like, ooh.
And Durga took this photo of me. Everyone probably knows Durga.
Durga Garcia.
That's a beautiful woman. That's a good friend to have. She does everything for artists as well. And she allowed me she said I allowed her, but she allowed me to be part of her life. And she did this piece here, and it's like, I created my own little slogan, my own little branding for myself. So this image here is normally showed on most of my publishing stuff that I do now. And again, I have Facebook on there, Twitter.
That's LinkedIn.
That's LinkedIn.
And Blogger.
And Blogger. Again, ways to get your work out there. Use all these avenues. They're all free. So take advantage of them. You'll be surprised who are watching you and who's going to come and see who you are as an artist.
This is our main brand. This determines everything that we do. And there's different things that I've done under this, but some of the things that I branched out from and collaborating with other types of businesses through this brand, Afro Boy. This started from a friend of mine. It's kind of funny, actually. When I grew up in New York City, and there was a guy at the time, he wasn't a friend, had a huge afro, Puerto Rican guy. His name's Alexi Figueroa. And my best friend and I didn't know his name, so we called him Afro Boy. So we connected again through social media, through MySpace, and he was doing an online radio show with another person. And from there, he and I started communicating with my writing. I was writing, but a lot of people didn't know I was writing. And he encouraged me to publish my first book, him and another friend of mine. So he was the anchor when I did my book signing in New York. And from there, he just said, you know what? I need to branch off on my own. I'm not working with this business partner anymore. And I'm going to name the imagery Afro Boy. And I'm like, why? He goes, because that's my history. It's about the type of music I listen to. He's into hip hop, rock and roll, like classic rock, and R&B, classic R&B. So he did a lot of radio, online radio, and started his own online radio show and does a blog. And I'm his ghostwriter for his blog. But Anthony created his brand, and basically it represents the New York City skyline because he's a New York City boy. And the Afro, again, represents his youth. And the Afro pick, there was something about him giving me that information. And when I told Anthony in bits and pieces, Anthony came up with this. Like, just out of, the whole graffiti scene, and we're from the Bronx, so that's like a big deal. It's a lot about our history, and it just made sense. And for somebody who comes from South Florida, here in Pleasant City, to have captured this image is incredible. He still cries about it. He's a big old crybaby, but he's doing a lot of things now, and a lot of things you see on Facebook I tend to post as long as it's not too derogatory because he tends to get a little earthy with some of his stuff. I post his shows, and eventually he's going to try to get me to do an interview. He did a Q&A on me, and it basically, a lot of people learned about me as an artist through his Q&A that he did on his blog, and I'll put it out there so you guys can read it, because it gave a lot of information about the three parts of me as the artist, me as the businesswoman, and me as the woman. So he asked questions that the average person probably would not have asked me, and you learn a lot from the interview.
And another thing too, you want to brand yourself. You want people to know who you are at a time. We got people now saying, what is A.T.B?
So we're like, are we not getting the word out there? Maybe we're giving too much information. So we're rethinking that. But just in the businesses that I work with and the nonprofits, I find that a lot of people are asking about different ventures. Sometimes you gotta kind of look it up, because we have, I feel, branded ourselves pretty well. It got to a point, like I said, as a design company, and then went into an art business. We're a full-fledged art business now. We teach art, we promote art, we curate shows now, and we're artists. You know, we still produce our art. Like, I'm a writer, and I do visual art as well.
Speaking of writing.
Oh, it's a good segue. The Mighty Nine. The Mighty Nine was a project that I worked with 8 other women of color. And the process of it was actually exciting because it was a collaborative with the exhibition we just did. Actually, those of you who know Rolando Biera, he had made a recommendation. He's like, well, you know, this vision you guys have is almost like the Harlem Renaissance, but where's the literary part? I was so caught up with the visual and the music, I didn't even think about it. So he was like, why don't you publish a book? You publish books, don't you? I'm like, yeah, I publish books. He's like, well, do something. And I said, well, at the time, we didn't have a lot of female exhibitors in the show when I came up with this. Later on, we did get more. But I just reached out. I did a call to literary artists. And ironically, 2 girls from my high school, who I was alumnus with, reached out and submitted. And it was kind of cool, because we went to a really good school, but we didn't know that we can write. You know, we were told that writing poetry, you have to rhyme, and so a lot of us kind of felt like we weren't really writers, we weren't really poets. But once we put this together, and it basically talked about our success, our journey to our successes in life, not just in art. Part of it is about art, but a lot of it is just some of the things we've gone through. But it's not like preachy, it's not like in your face. Some of it is very humorous, some of it's very spiritual. Some of it is just a couple of lines. And those of you who probably follow me on Facebook, I have a lot to say without being disrespectful. So a lot of what goes on in there, what I say, kind of just brings you a lot of strength in the words. So this was a really awesome collaboration.
Which we do have the book here tonight.
Right. And, and that's basically where that stemmed from. But I've published so far 5 books. That one is The Devil's Advocate. I'm a Gemini, and the two-faced part, actually Durga Garcia photographed this. Those of you who know Geminis know that we have 2 sides of a personality. Well, the other thing about us is that we're open to seeing 2 sides of a coin. In other words, you may have a concept and I'm like, but I can see your point, and then he might have something that's a little different, and I can also see his point. So some people may think that's just the politician in me, but I think it's a matter of that's how you're able to connect with people in life. You can see both sides and understand both sides. You may not agree with both sides, so that's what that book is. And this was something that my son actually talked me into. Since he was like 5, he had been trying to talk my husband and I into opening up a restaurant. And that wasn't going to happen, because I just can't see myself doing that. But he, I guess, just loved the way I cooked. So as he got older and started realizing that it wasn't a realistic venture, he decided to ask me, why don't you do a cookbook? So with the cookbook, I reached out to friends who had some awesome recipes that I knew from when I was a kid. I was raised amongst a lot of Latin food and a lot of Caribbean food. And I wanted those recipes in this book. I just felt it was necessary because that's what I was raised on. And Southern food, but I knew those recipes from my dad and my grandmother and those people and my mother. So I wanted those other recipes. So I put it into a book, and it became kind of popular. And there's like a few recipes in particular that people requested me to put in there, like the bread pudding recipe, so I put that in there. Macaroni and cheese, things to me that are so basic, but for many it's not. So I put it together, that book, and now we're starting a second book.
And I will be in 2 shows in Art Basel. I have them up here if anyone interested in seeing me this week. So if I have these up here if anyone wants to.
One is a mystery, actually.
One of them is a mystery.
Thank you, sweetie. But it should be good.
Yeah, it should be good. This should be very interesting because again, this show is coming off of a show we did last year at Art Basel called Art of Africa. And the person who helped create that show decided he wasn't going to do it this year. So one of his partners decided to do a spin-off of the show. So that's why we say it's going to be a surprise. I was just asked to put some work in the show, and I went to the space to drop the work off, and it's in a beautiful hotel. So I think looking at the space, I don't know the art that's going in there.
We know some of the
I just
artists.
know I'm going to be there.
We know some of the artists.
We know some of the artists, but most of them I don't know because I never.
The Marquee.
The Marquee on 101 Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. This is actually another crazy thing. It's going to be at 11 o'clock at night. It's going to be 11 to 2. So if you want to see me, I'm going to be there probably like 10 o'clock. And I'm going to try to hang in there until 2. Get into my sleeping time, or I should say my drawing time, 'cause I normally draw late at night. So normally I'm drawing at 2 o'clock. But hopefully it's going to be a beautiful show. Please come out and support it. Now, Endanger Art for Apes. This is going to be a special show.
Melinda's in it too. Melinda,
yes.
She's going to be in it as well.
This is basically was chosen. There was an exhibit that we had to, which we had to pay for to get in this show. I think it was $25 for this one here.
It was a
Competition. We all had to pay $25 to enter a couple pieces and hope that we get in. Well, we got in. But this is for a good cause, though. Some of the proceeds from the sales of the work is going to help this organization out, and that's right there is beautiful. The piece that I put in the show was an ape I did from the Miami Zoo. Greg Mathis took the photo, and he allowed me to create me through it. And I have one of my other endangered species pieces in there, the humpback whale that I did for one of the shows I was in. So again, please come out and support. If you got friends, invite them to all the shows. You just never know, they might need a piece of art in their life. Other than that, that's it.
Anthony, tell us a little bit about the show that you're doing during
Art Synergy. So we were part of a group of artists in the community called the Think Tank. And from there, we were coming up with things we were going to be doing within the county. So Anthony and I weren't able to make a meeting. And when we arrived, it was in a lake. The location for the meeting was in Lake Worth. So when we got there, come to find out, we are curators of the Clematis location. And people were like in an uproar because as I said, we live in Northwood. So people automatically assume because we live in Northwood that we should be running the Northwood one. Well, Northwood has galleries. So the gallery owners should be responsible to run that location. So Craig, unbeknownst to us, was like, oh yeah, so myself and the Burkses are gonna be running the pop-up in Clematis, which was actually cool. I was glad he brought me on. I was just a little stunned because as soon as we walked in the door, people were like attacking us with, like, oh my God. But Art Synergy is the big umbrella. And within these umbrellas, there's 4 districts and then I call them 2 side districts. So it's Lake Worth, Northwood, downtown West Palm, and Boynton Beach. And then we have 2 side entities, which is in Worth Avenue and the Dixie Antique Row. So with this, we partnered with Leanne Lester, those of you who know, who does Art Basel and ArtPalmBeach. And our pop-up area is going to be really amazing because it's in the we got it confirmed officially, the 312 space, which those of you who saw Chisholm's summer exhibition, it's in the space right next to, off the hookah and like up the street from like several restaurants. So we're right in the core, right outside of the convention center. So we're like the hit spot before they go to all the other locations. So our vision is to get people to come there and kind of branch them off into the other locations. It's cool that it's a pop-up because we have total control of how we want to do it, how it's going to look, and the space is amazing. It's like 6,800 square feet or some wild thing like that. January 22nd now to the 26th. One of the events Anthony came up with, it's a black tie and sneaker event, and basically that's going to be a fundraiser. And what it is that people will paint sneakers and we're going to auction those off to a charity. We're partnering with a group who is a dance company actually, and she does charity work in the community. So she's going to pick the charity. Actually, I have to speak to her before I leave. She's going to let me know which charity. We did a shoe drive for her with one of our other exhibitions, and it was very successful. So we know with this one, the goal is to have people dress up very formal, but they're very comfortable with the sneakers, so you can wear your own painted sneakers or not, but wear sneakers would be nice. And then you're going to bid on the sneakers that are going to be. So that's just one of many different things. We're going to do a brunch on Sunday with the panel. Those of you who came here, we did an artist panel that was very successful. A lot of people were very excited about that because they learned a lot about how to manage their art and what they should do. And artists learned a lot about what their responsibility is to maintain proper integrity of their work, you know, how to get it insured, those kind of things. So we're going to be doing something similar to that also. So it's like now turned into one more day, but so we have 5 days that we're going to be hosting down in that space. So right now I think we're good with 2D work. We're looking for a few more sculptors. So that's where we're at. Because the event itself, Art Palm Beach, their theme this year is giant sculptures. So we're looking for, there's a few sculptors that we have in mind, so I'm going to reach out to them. So that's about it. Thank you.